Good morning. I'm Klaus Ruprecht, the director of the Canadian Centre for German and European Studies at York University in Toronto. We have been invited by GermanStudies.ca to talk about Europe's love affair with Obama. Let me introduce my panelists. They are three professors at York University. To my immediate left is Professor Dagmar Sönneke, Professor of Policy at the School of Public Policy. To my extreme left is Professor Willem Maas, Jean Monnet Chair in European Integration and Professor at Glendon School. And to my right is Professor Burkhard Eberlein, Professor of Policy at Schulich School of Business at York University. Now, we have divided our topic into three sub-topics. First, we will talk about the question whether Obama would be possible in Europe. Secondly, about the perception in Europe of Obama. And third, about the expectations an Obama administration will have towards Europe. So I will start with Professor Sönneke.
Okay. So the first question that we're going to be discussing is Obama possible in Europe? I think we first have to talk about what it really means, is Obama possible in Europe? Because to say he's possible, what do we even mean by that? I work on immigration, so I'm thinking and perceiving that question as one that has to do with Obama's background as an individual and his migration background that has been emphasized, because it has a lot to do with Obama's story and the typical American story of who can rise to the top and become a leader in the United States. From the German perspective, I think Germany is still very twisted about questions of immigration in general, so I think Germany would like to believe that something like this is possible. And Cem Özdemir, who was just elected leader of the Green Party in Germany, representing a German with a migration background, certainly seems to represent that. But overall, I think I'm fairly skeptical if we say Obama possible means an immigrant rising to such a powerful position as possible. I guess I'm fairly skeptical on that front. So I would like to open that segment with my skepticism.
Yeah, I certainly share that sentiment, but I think it's not only a question of minorities. Can a politician from a minority background rise to the top in any European country? That is certainly a big issue, and I would agree. But it's also, I think, the way political elites are recruited in Europe. So the importance of party political machines, and you have to rise through the ranks, and it's a very long journey. And it's amazing how Obama could, in no time, compared to European standards, rise to the top and run for presidency. And I think we have to take the two together, his minority status plus the much more fluid character of elite recruitment in the U.S. I'm not saying this is exceptional by U.S. standards as well, but political parties do play a huge role in Europe.
Yeah, no, certainly both of those are factors, right? So the peculiarities of the American political system, where you have a primary system that's completely unique in terms of the world, that certainly helped. But I think I interpreted the question in the same way as Professor Sönneke. And there, my answer would basically be the same. Possible, yes, but not yet. Certainly not for a while. Just some quick statistics. In France, there are 577 deputies in the National Assembly. 1 is black. In Italy, 631 is black, and he was a protege of the former mayor of Rome. The situation is slightly better in Germany, but only slightly. In the UK, things are starting to improve there, but it's a gradual process. So I did some research. 1987 in the UK was the first year that there were ethnic minorities elected to Parliament, and there were 4. 92, next election, 6. 97, there were 9. 2001 there were 12, and 2005 now there are 15, which is a gradual improvement. And I think you need to put this into the context. the U.S. has long had ethnic minorities, whereas in Europe it's a relatively new phenomenon still, right? The 1960s essentially is when really ethnic minorities started growing in Europe. So it's a new phenomenon there. Sweden and the Netherlands are probably at the forefront. And even there, the new mayor of Rotterdam, as of January 1st, Ahmed Aboutaleb, he's Moroccan-born, and it's the first time that an ethnic minority candidate has become mayor in the Netherlands. The important thing to note there is mayors in the Netherlands are political appointees, right? So again, it's a political system difference, right? They're not elected, so if members of ethnic minorities can work within the political systems in Europe, then it'll become possible. But I think that time is still a little far off. To imagine a member of an ethnic minority as the chief executive, right? That's something different than being a mayor or being in parliament.
What is interesting?
Quick response?
Yeah, I think what Obama did interestingly in the U.S., he tried to evade running as a minority candidate. He tried to avoid that as much as possible. And I think the same would be true, looking forward to a European situation. It must be a candidate from a minority background must run not on a minority ticket, but must run on an agenda of change.
The president of France, actually, just to throw this in, is an interesting case because Sarkozy has an immigrant background, but I think the way that he's been perceived as not an immigrant but a as French proper is really interesting. So it's also a question of how we cast the individual candidates because Obama has been cast as black very much in the United States, even though, like you said, he's been avoiding that. But in terms of political recruitment, perhaps Sarkozy is an interesting case because he's not different enough and not perceived as an immigrant. But you mentioned a bunch of categories, and if you pull blacks out as individuals because of their visible differences in the European makeup, I think that's also another question that we would have to ask in a different context. So I think that makes an important difference.
Well, thank you.